This segment is brought to you in part by the Canadian Historical Arms Society, owners of the Genesee Range, the premier recreational sport and training facility in Western Canada. See us online at historical-arms.com.
The Quiet Professional, a podcast about law enforcement, security, justice, and politics. We are digging deeper on the issues and going where the information takes us with access to experts and authorities. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Welcome back, everybody. Nathan Rome is with you. Today, we are going to be talking about first responder and veteran suicide prevention. For that, I have Mark Messina here. Mark is a military combat-tested leader, security expert, and entrepreneur. Having deployed to both the Middle East and South America, he has served in combat operations, security cooperation, and training foreign allied forces. After retiring from the military, he founded Grey Group Tactical Incorporated, which he educates, trains, and outfits clients with mission-critical gear and knowledge. Also, Mark is the vice president of QRFup, an organization that provides rapid crisis response solutions for service members, veterans, and first responders. With QRFup, he helps develop life-saving crisis intervention programs which support those who serve. Awesome stuff. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, thanks, Nathan. Great intro, man. Excited to be here. Appreciate it. Right. Always a great opportunity to come in and, explain what our organization does and how we're actually impacting our community.
I want to say thanks too for reaching out. I know it's a little slow on responding to the messages, but I get a lot of spam on all these platforms now. And I think it has to do with some different guests I've had on, but I get a lot of spam. So I'm like, who are these guys? So I had to look into stuff first, but I'm ecstatic to have you on here. And I think once people see your brand, it'll be stuck in their mind because it's very unique. And as I was saying offline before we started, I wore my brightest shirt I could find to kind of go with the theme today. So I'm glad to have you here. Let's talk a little bit about you to start. So I gave the bio, but maybe a little history on you and what led you to creating QRFup.
Yeah. So, like you said, I served my entire adult life in the military. I was medically retired at 15 years out of the Army. And it came a lot from, TBI and a PTSD diagnosis. So, throughout my entire military career, right, I'd been all over the world and, I've gone to every continent now except for Antarctica. Which I don't plan on going because if it's below 50 degrees, I don't mess with it. I'm a Southern, boy, y'all. I don't go above the Mason-Dixon for like a 9-month span. But I don't do the cold. So, but no, I ended up, going through some issues and having, a couple different things, right? Like I had like really, really bad migraine issues. And then I was starting to have panic attacks and different things like that, right? So come to find out, right, I went in and I got a TBI diagnosis, right? And then, kind of working into that a little bit more, I was put into a couple different programs for PTSD and understanding the correlation between the two because they do have mirroring side effects, which a lot of people don't thoroughly understand. And that's what eventually put me out of the Army, right? And it set me out. At the time, I was not very thrilled about it, right? I'll be honest, I was pissed.
Well, 15 years kind of becomes part of your identity, right? So it's hard to just stop something.
No, 100%. And I was on a fast track, man. I was already holding a position 2 levels above where I should have been working at, and I was doing really well. You know what I mean? And not to toot the horn on the military, but it takes a lot of work, man. It does. It takes a lot of work to get into those positions, and you have to put everything you've got into it. And if you don't, you're not going to get it.
Yeah,
you're going to sit stagnant. But yeah, no, it's one of those things that I felt like I had a lot of unfinished business when it came to that because I didn't get to my full potential with it, and it kind of leads into the stigma and a lot of the reason why I got so involved with QRFup.
Okay.
Because the stigma of raising your hand and saying, hey, I need help, and knowing where I was within my career glide path and kind of hitting that point, and I was still ripped out from underneath me and pushed out, you know what I mean, like a broken toy, it put a bad taste in my mouth.
If I could ask on that too, so was it more a personal choice, or was it, once you kind of said, "Hey, I need some help," then things start to change?
So once you say that you need help with something and you're having these problems, um, you're recommended to go do certain things. And at that point, for me, it was I need to go take care of this and I need to get better. I went with the ideology that it wasn't going to cost me my career
Mm.
because of where I was at within my career. Um, that wasn't the case. So and yes, I was pushed to a forced medical retirement. Um, Essentially, I kind of got the option of, hey, you're going to go down and you're going to do this.
Okay. All right.
So
Was when you get when you're talking about TBIs and stuff, and I'm no medical
mhm,
expert, so you have to explain some of it to me. But is in your
yeah.
case, was it a gradual buildup from exposure to multiple things, or is it like one big event that kind of sets it off?
So it can be a multitude of things, right? Like and everybody's body is always going to react to things differently. I decided to spend most of my military career jumping out of airplanes.
Yeah.
So and anybody who's actually jumped out of an airplane, especially under a military parachute, you know that you generally go, feet face or feet head. You might catch, your ass in that at some point, but unlikely. It's mainly kind of feet face
Mm.
or feet head. So I've hit my head quite a few times, just from that aspect. And then obviously, explosions and IED blasts, and then being around other weaponry that has consistent concussion, right?
Yeah.
Whether, it's Carl Gustav's, it's AT4s, it's, you know, just being around heavy machine guns and all of those different things really kind of start messing and playing with that. I didn't notice a big change until my last rotation in Colombia, where we were finding out that there was a very high index of noise in the hotel that we were staying at, where it was reading around like 120 to 160 decibels
In the hotel?
every day in the hotel.
Like this is from exercises going on around you, or is it just like a big party going
No,
on?
it was just a constant noise factor that was there.
Okay.
Um, I won't get too in depth on that, but Havana syndrome's real, y'all. So look
Mm.
into it. It's a real thing. Radio waves definitely played factors into what was going on there. Um, and there are some issues that come with that. And that goes into a little bit more like the multi-domain warfare and peer-to-peer
Mm.
fights over
Okay.
competition. But there may or may not have been a very large Chinese building right next to us that was
Oh,
a
okay.
radio facility. Interesting, right?
I'm gonna look some of this up.
Yeah. So it and for the listeners out there, right? Like it's something to actually kind of look up and get some knowledge and insight on for people that are going to some of those different locations. Especially your embassy workers and your other forces that go down there to work with foreign nations.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, but that's really after that rotation is when I really started to know and recognize a lot of the issues I was having, and I wasn't the only one. So, do I think that was a contributing factor? I do. But again, I'm not a doctor either, so I won't sit there and be like, "This is what caused it." I don't know. I can just tell you that, hey, this is when I really noticed, having a lot of the issues,
Hmm.
and I know this was going on in that area.
What year did you end up leaving the military?
So I finalized out the military at the end of 2023.
2023. Okay.
Yeah, November of 2023.
All right. And what leads to the creation of the QRF then?
Well, so I didn't found QRFup, just to be 100% transparent.
Mm.
That was Ram Yebra. So he's the one who actually founded the organization. I came in right after the original pilot was ran.
All right.
Um, and we started kind of working on that. So the ideology behind it is suicide metrics, guys. It all boils back down to I'm tired of losing my friends to suicide,
Mm.
right? Throughout my military career, I lost 11 friends to combat. All right. And that's a high number as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I just buried number 40 who've taken their own lives.
Holy.
And that was in November this last year.
Okay.
So, the basic stats coming out of it is that, veterans and first responders are, I think it's like, and I wish I had the numbers in front of me. I probably should have been more prepared, but they're almost like 70 some percent more likely of committing suicide than an average civilian.
I had a prior guest on here, is Dr. Nick Carlton. He runs a huge study,
Mhm.
big longitudinal study with the Royal Canadian Mounted
Yeah.
Police. Yeah, you heard of him?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So,
I have not,
oh,
but
okay. So he does some really incredible work with them, and they're doing stuff now where when they bring recruits through training, they hook them up to like all this physiology
Mhm.
equipment, and they're testing and they're like monitoring heart rates and your reaction to things. And so they're doing everything from that, where it's like all the electronics are involved, to journaling and getting people to like keep
Sure.
track of stuff and write things down. And man, I wish some of that was around when I started. and but I think at least up here in Canada, there's some
Yeah.
recognition of it. I see some of that in the US sporadically, but it's like down there, it's so fragmented. Uh, you know, uh, Good stat up here, and I've said this on multiple podcasts, so people might be sick of hearing it, but the stat of like we have something like 180 law enforcement agencies in Canada. US has about 18,000, which is crazy. So everybody's just
Yeah.
doing their own thing, and it's like, how do you get a coordinated response on that? Um, but yeah, no, like
You
there's some,
don't.
yeah, well, yeah, you don't, and there's but it's just when they were talking about like some of the stats, I want to say it was like the average civilian might be exposed to like four, I'm just going to say traumatic events in their lifetime.
Mhm.
There might be a better term for that, but four in a whole lifetime, police can get like 4, 8, 12 in a day. I
Yeah.
imagine military, right? You go on deployment, you can see all kinds of things. You're exposed to, but then even in training, you're exposed to all the blasts, and there's like lots of stuff going on. So yeah, the numbers are incredibly high.
So, and that's kind of been a big thing too. And I know, obviously we originally started this strictly for veterans and military, right? We've then expanded it because, we realize the correlation between our first responders as well. And I include that to be, police officers, sheriff officers, any of the, the three-letter agency agents or officers that are dealing with those certain, type things. And then to your firefighters, your paramedics, your ER staff,
Yeah.
any of those other folks that are all in that first response type, scenario is what we're incorporating in this as well. Because we deal with traumatic incidents on a daily basis. If you've ever talked with any of those people I listed, right, we all have a very warped sense of humor.
Yeah.
We always, laugh and joke about certain things that are, well, they're not really socially acceptable. You know what I mean? Because and it's a trauma response at the end of the day. It's we figure out a way to normalize dealing with things like that regularly.
I was gonna say on that, I feel like, and I've asked some people about this, where it's like, what I wonder where in history where it changed, where you know uh, the only thing that's really guaranteed in life is death and taxes, and we've taken that death part, and it's so removed from the day to day of what anybody is exposed to, like outside of maybe finding your parents dead or grandparents, like you probably will never see a dead person in your life. But we've removed that from society. So now when people deal with it, first responders, military, everybody in those camps, um, yeah, it's not normal. And it's like, but that is a part of life. So why is there the stigma? Why do these things exist when really they shouldn't? Right? Like I don't know how we got to this point where it's like,
Yeah.
we can't have this sense of humor, or we have to use it in a way that isn't socially acceptable. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's kind of a strange thing, I guess. Strange place we are.
So like social norms is something I talk about regularly, right? And I call them social normalities, right? I realize it's not a word, y'all. All right, it's just what I say.
If you say it enough, it becomes a word. Like tweet.
Exactly. I'm going to talk it into fruition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to talk it into it. It's going to be part of Webster soon. Don't worry. I'm going to get there. I'll write him a letter. But no, it's something that I like to always bring up too, because people don't understand here, especially in, in the United States and Canada and in, first world countries, that the value of life is so much less outside of that in your third world countries or in your second world countries. You know what I mean? And there's so many different things that people don't truly understand and the hardships that they have to face compared to what our normal is. Right? Like this goes into, every bit of it, whether I don't want to go all political on anybody, but the acceptance of all these different, niches and responses and all the different stuff that we're kind of curtailing to people now, when in all reality it's just made up, guys. It doesn't matter, and truthfully nobody actually cares.
Yeah.
So what's really important in life is it watching an American football game and highlighting all these amazing athletes and doing that. Cool, that's the thing of the Coliseum, boys. Like, I hate to break it to you, we've got UFC now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's just human nature and how we respond to certain things. So unplug a little bit and actually find out what your value of life is. And that will change your perception of a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because once you live outside of that social normality, right? And see, I plugged it again.
Yeah.
But, once you're outside of there and you actually witness what true hardships are, it will change and alter your views on things, which I hate to break it to everybody, is also the definition of PTSD. You view a traumatic incident.
Yeah. You know what? I was going to say, I think it would do people a service to maybe just don't always vacation to Mexico. Like, actually go to a different country, see some of the real world, experience some stuff, right? There's other things out there besides laying on a beach. Maybe that's just me. I'm the opposite of you though. I can't do hot weather. It kills me when it's like above 15 Celsius. I don't know what that would be in Fahrenheit, but maybe 60 degrees. So
math in public's dangerous. I don't do it.
So, I think people kind of lack a lot of life experience, and that's where it makes it also maybe not the stigma of it, but it just makes it hard to relate to others when we go through some of these experiences and see some of the things that we do. Because it's like, who do you talk to then? So it's good that there's organizations such as yours. There's a whole bunch kind of across both nations that are trying to normalize things and get people talking. So it's always the kind of the start of it. So with QRFup, can you explain just about something around the name, the branding? Like, what is, I know on the website it talks a bit about that, but if you could explain for listeners who haven't seen it.
Yeah, 100%. Right. So obviously y'all can see the logo on my hat. It is a white hat. Sorry, it does kind of blend well. But no, so QRF is your quick reaction force. So it is a military acronym and military term. And, I've talked about it on a couple other shows as well too. But it's that like, hey, we're in the moment right now where we need help immediately. And you can send a QRF. So that's really where it stems from, is like, hey, we're QRFup and we can physically send a responder or connect you with a therapist immediately because you need help in that moment right here and now. And then obviously the color scheme and the metrics that go with it are based off of the suicide and mental health ribbon. And you'll see that in our site as well too. And that's where a lot of the coloring came from. And then obviously the palm trees and the sunset with the city in the background is actually Ramadi.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
I was going to say, like, when I first saw it, maybe it had something to do with Miami Vice or...
I know, man. So that is exactly what I said. I'm like, yo, what's up with the Miami Vice logo? Like, it's too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, go try to get that embroidered too. Good luck. It's never going to happen. We're committed now though. So
it's good. It stands out, like I said.
But Yeah, there's a lot of symbolism that goes to it. Obviously, a lot of military and policing culture as well too is we're very big into our symbols. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So, and you got to look into it and you got to kind of get it, and understand a lot of where it comes from and why it's branded the way that it is.
Yeah.
So, and we're doing that. We're definitely stepping our game up in our merchandise aspect and a couple other things as well too to really kind of capture that.
So when we were talking previously, and then I think it was all on your website, but you have a ton of sponsors, partners, depending on the relationship. But
Yeah.
I mean, you got a ton of support for this, and can you just talk a bit about that?
So
Like,
we do.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
really cool.
absolutely. So we started this understanding exactly what QRFup is, and I'll explain the entire process and app, and we can get into that after this. But you know, we understand that we are that in the moment crisis response, right? We needed to build support for pre and post care, right, to get people stabilized permanently,
Mhm.
right? That intermediate, that immediate action is 100% necessary, and there isn't somebody that's covering it, especially not nationally, and then eventually, hopefully, internationally. But we ran into the issues of, yeah, I can stabilize you in the moment, but we're not solving any problems,
Yeah.
right? We're taking care of, we're putting a band-aid on it for the moment, and then what? Right. So that's where we built a lot of our partnerships in is other nonprofits, other organizations, other companies that want to help support that and get people problems taken care of, right? If you need additional therapies, right? Because let's say cognitive behavioral health therapy is not your jam.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like it's just not great. You want to go and try a yoga retreat. You want to go out and do a surfing retreat. You want to go try ayahuasca. You want to
Mm.
go try, all of these other options are available. We wanted to be that cognitive piece that's capable of connecting you to them, right?
Okay.
So we're building it out. Once you actually kind of, if you reach out to us or you inquire about other resources, we then can kind of transition you to that. I am still kind of working our website out of how we can highlight additional resources and do that. Just because I think we're at like 271 some odd partnerships that we've built
Yeah.
right now, and that's a
Yeah.
lot to put in, and like nobody's going to index that. You know what I mean? So it's more of a conversational piece that we can go in and be like, hey, we have a couple of these other resources that we want to connect you with. Is this something you'd be interested in? And that's something for our therapists and our peer-to-peer responders to kind of lean on. I know as a senior non-commissioned officer in the military, our main responsibility is obviously taking care of soldiers and taking care of veterans.
Mm.
And that's really what we've brought with QRF Up is knowing the programs that are available for you and being able to connect you to them.
Yeah. Very cool.
So that's where a lot of our partnerships come from. Um, we are currently self-funded, just so everybody's aware, right? We have been self-funding this and rowing this out. We don't have any major corporate sponsors, right? Yet. And if you're interested,
Mhm.
email me.
Yeah.
But we are building that out just because we hadn't needed it up to this point. With our national launch, we need it. At the end of the day, we need additional funding to start coming in.
Mhm.
Um, and kind of build that out. We've done it, and a lot of our, larger companies and different things have been incredibly helpful with, helping us set up workshops, helping us set up, different things using their venues. Hey, we need to solve problems and we can rely on them for that, but we don't have any actual main, anchor sponsors or anything along that line yet.
So you're talking about rolling this out nationally now. Where do you operate within? And can you just give us like an idea of the scope
Yeah.
of the project? And then we'll get
Yeah.
into if you want to just go straight into talking about how it actually works, how the app works, and how
Yeah.
people connect
100%.
with you through that.
So actually, I'll probably start with that, and
Yeah.
then it'll make a little bit more sense of how we're pushing it out nationally. So at the end of the day, guys, we've recognized that the veteran and first responder suicide rate is out of control. All right. It's, in the US, right? Because I can't speak on Canadian numbers, but I know in the US, everybody knows and understands the 22 a day, right?
Mm.
It's a huge marketing campaign that was pushed out. It's actually driven from 2012, the numbers, right? So, but most people don't understand that. They just think, oh, 22 a day, it's, how many veterans commit suicide. Um, those numbers aren't right.
Okay.
Not now. All right. So, as we were kind of going through this and figuring out, the need for our app, right? Because we don't want to create something that there isn't a need for. Um, we obviously knew because we have a personal, interest to it. But how does the rest of the public know and understand? Is you know, it's steadily gaining.
Mhm.
So we're estimating right now around 35 to 40 suicides a day from that community.
And that grows
And
with
and here's
when you get like all those events, right? The BLM stuff,
correct.
George Floyd,
Correct.
COVID, like just everything. Yeah.
Yep. And they all have, multiplying factors and condition-based factors that go, and we have a spread that kind of dictates and shows the stress level indicators and different things that we've built out for
Mm.
it. But the main issue is that the numbers aren't being reported correctly.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of where this really stemmed from is, hey, the VA saying we're down to 17 a day. That's great. The numbers are going down. But the VA is only reporting on 9 million service connected veterans who are connected with the VA. There's 19.6 million in America.
Hmm.
So your numbers are skewed. Again, I don't do math in public, but you know what I mean? That's 60 some odd percent that you're not factoring for,
Yeah.
right? Also, if, someone does take their life, if it's any type of opioid, any type of vehicle, accident, anything that's not considered a like violent suicide, it's not counted as a suicide. It's considered an accident,
Which is crazy, right?
right? And that includes homelessness.
Yeah.
That includes all of it, right? So it's not considered a suicide at all. So those numbers aren't even in the statistics. So when they're saying these numbers are trending down, again, it's a marketing campaign, and they're full of shit. They're lying.
Yeah. And you know what? That's one thing I've always been like anytime someone gives stats, especially on the political side, I'm like, okay, like what's the rest of the story here? Because
Right.
it's never just what they're telling you, right? There's always more to it. And it's just to encourage people like go look into this stuff for yourself and just ask questions. Just get educated, like actually care, show some interest, but
Yeah.
to just take those superficial numbers, well, I mean, two people can read the same stat and have totally different
Yeah.
interpretations. So you have to be careful with those.
Yeah. And that's something that we all need to be cognizant of. You know what I mean? Like just because it's on the news or it's on Twitter or it's on whatever else, right? Doesn't mean it's true. You know what I'm saying? So that's really where this all stemmed from. So what we did is we created a mobile app, right? It's 2025, y'all. Everybody's got a
Yeah.
phone. How do we put a therapist in your pocket?
Yeah.
Right? So we created a mobile app that will directly connect you with a licensed therapist in your prospective state. That kind of ties into how we're growing this nationally, right? So, what it is, it's a red hot button that's on your phone. You push the red hot button, it will then change to blue and have a symbol going around it. There's a lot of things that go into this that were helped with our app development to show like physical working, and that's actually part of the de-escalation process of getting it through there. Plus, it gives time for the transition to go through our VoIP service. But that connects you directly with a licensed therapist who then is going to have a conversation with you, right? You're not going straight to a peer center or a call center or an automated messaging service. No, you're going straight to a therapist.
Hmm.
All right. And they're going to help de-escalate the call and talk you through what's got you in crisis in this moment, right? What's got you having, these overwhelming thoughts where you're looking at potentially taking your life. And it's that last minute ditch effort of, I need help. Here's somebody to talk to.
Very cool.
Around 60% of our calls to date have been de-escalated over the phone, right? So we're doing well in that aspect. So, but that's not where we stopped this. All right. There's much more to it. That's just phase one. All right. So you get in, you speak to that therapist, and then they're going to help, talk you through the problems, right? They're going to work some of those different techniques of cognitive behavioral therapy with you. and they're going to kind of set all of that into motion and then try to get you onto a safety plan. All right. So we have a couple other, features that come into our safety plans and different aspects that people can use. But if they are able to get you calmed down and onto a safety plan over the phone call, right, they're going to put you on a timer.
Okay.
Okay. So depending on the metrics, again, not a doctor, right? The University of Columbia helped us dramatically with a lot of this. Is we developed a metric for the time that you need to call back in, right? So you're going to do the same exact thing. You're going to push that red hot button. It's going to connect you. Hey, I'm so and so, and it's going to pull your chart up, the safety plan you're on, and you're going to discuss that again with a live therapist. All right. If you de-escalate at that point, then they will offer you other resources to get you into something and continue building that out. Generally between 2 to 8 hours.
And real quick on that, does it tie into a person's medical history at all? Like, or is it just purely what the person tells you on the phone? That's what the psychologist going to know.
So we are working this year. So again, we're working this year to tie in with My Healthy Vet, which will give that therapist a view of medical history if you opt into it.
Okay.
So there are opt-in options to that we're building into the app, and tying in with My Healthy Vet. We have not found one that will work for all of the different first responders yet, just because there isn't a singular point there.
That's an issue we have up here. It's just like, what this system doesn't talk to this one. Even within an organization, there could be walls up between sharing information. So it becomes very hard to get a full picture of what someone's dealing with or going through. And then agency to agency, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And that's a struggle that we're facing 100%, especially on the first responder side. The veteran side, it's a little bit simpler just because we have VA Health, and My Healthy Vet directly connects with VA Health.
Yeah.
However, a lot of people don't want to be reported on, and they want that autonomy to where they don't want the VA, knowing or whatever they, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll get into that a little bit too. Actually, I can talk about it now. Why not? Right. So on the bottom of our app, when you go in and kind of look at it, you'll see that red circular button there. Just beneath it is an actual toggle that has 911 response, right? So you can just flip that toggle back and forth, and that gives the caller the option if they want a 911 response alerted to them or not. So we do work with emergency dispatch that we can then send over, a response to have, the police brought out to you. Because again, and this is kind of the big point of contention is when emergency dispatch gets that, who are they sending first? It's not an ambulance, it's the police.
Yeah.
All right. And as we kind of develop this state by state, every state has different rules, right? So they have different criteria that goes and does all those things. Also, you know what I mean? Maybe having a police officer showing up isn't the right person. I'm not a blue basher, guys. I'm all about it, right? Like I have a ton of friends that are cops. I don't want y'all's job. It sounds awful. But you know what I mean? Like for folks like myself, who I'm already in, a crisis fight or flight mode, having a police officer, 2 police officers showing up, who aren't trained in that specific of helping de-escalate it's not going to help me de-escalate. It's only going to escalate my anxiety and I'm going to continue in that fight or flight. So, and that's not what we want.
I think a lot of police would agree with you, and a lot of police officers in general would say they don't want to be put in that situation.
Right.
For the reason that I'm not the expert. It's not that you're not looking to help. It's like, I'll help out however you need. I'll get you, a ride to whatever person is appropriate. But it's like the police are there to just make sure it's safe. And someone isn't,
right.
The mental health worker isn't walking through the door and going to have a gun pointed at them. So, but outside of that, it's like, dude, I don't know. I can't help you. I can talk to you for a bit, but like, we got to get you somewhere or to somebody. So that is a thing up here that there's a lot of back and forth, and it's different from province to province, the level of response and who goes where. So very similar issues state to state. Everybody's got a different thought on it and a process. It makes it very difficult, even to have some conversations. A lot of people just get into kind of screaming and shouting back and forth, and the people who lose at the end of the day are the ones who need the help. So they kind of get forgotten about. But yeah, you're right on point with a lot of
and what's actually helping. You know what I mean? And it all goes back to what's the best for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't disagree with some of the rules that they have. You know what I mean? Like if you're brandishing a weapon and you have certain things, like at the end of the day, you have a job to do and you're gonna take care of it. You have protocols you have to follow. Undoubtedly. You know what I mean? But what if we were able to stabilize them before they showed up?
Mm-hmm.
And what if we're able to do that before they get there so they're not a critical danger to themselves and we can help that, right? And that's really where this comes into play. You know what I mean? So and that's an option, right? People can have that and people don't have to have that, right? And I think the bigger play to that as well is we're supporting veterans, active duty military, first responders, who are in that field.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to you if you have, a crisis to that extent and police show to your house? You're probably not going to be a police officer for much longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the truth. Now, whether that's the right answer or the wrong answer is, there's a lot of gray space to play in that. But at the end of the day, you've been serving your community and doing these things for so long, right? You hit a breaking point. Why don't we rehabilitate over just remove?
Mm. Yeah.
And that's where this comes into play as well, and where we want to offer that anonymity to people because, you know what I mean? Case in point, myself. I raised that hand and I'm like, hey guys, I need my help. I need to do these certain things for me. And I lost my career.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I guess maybe a little more so for law enforcement is it could be your peers showing up to your call. So as much as people say that stuff won't get around, it gets around. People
Right.
talk all the time. I'm just wondering too on the safety aspect. So I don't know how things work behind the scenes up here. I just know what we get dispatched to and why. So we have a lot of different crisis lines and resources that people can call. And those calls will get redirected to us if there's any sort of threat of violence, weapon. And I'm wondering for your program, so what is kind of the gauge? How do people, if they say, hey, I just want someone to show up and talk to, what's the threshold or how do you make sure it's safe or as safe as you can before you just send a civilian in? And then where's that threshold for law enforcement to then come in?
Yep. So this kind of gets into our second point, right? So if you're not able to be de-escalated over the phone and you do need that peer-to-peer support showing up for you, we are building a peer-to-peer support network across the nation. And we'll get into how that works here when we get to our scalability. But no, they're trained. So now I will caveat with that. This is online training. All right. Just because we are nationwide, we had to find a resource that does online training. And they do run their peer-to-peer support certificate, and it's called the Vet Ready program. Or oh gosh, there's another name and I'm blanking it right now. Psych Armor. Thank you.
Psych Armor. Okay.
Geez. So yeah, it's Psych Armor and the Vet Ready program through Columbia University. It is an online training. It is 12, hour modules of online training that all of our peer-to-peer responders are required to go through. And that does, give you specific training on how to de-escalate if there are those situations present. And then obviously if there is that present, you can take that step back and have police involved. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I want people to understand this too, and coming, from that community and understanding it. There's a stigma when somebody has a weapon and what they're doing with it. But and this isn't a forever instance, right? But majority of the people who are in that position, they don't want to harm anybody else.
Yeah.
They only want to harm themselves. All right. And at that point in their lives, and I can speak on this personally, is I've come to the recognition that I'm harming everybody I care about and everybody I love, and they would be better off without me. Right. So removing myself from that equation is the only thing that's actually going to be beneficial to them. All right. So, and it goes back to the same thing. Like, why did I serve my country for so long? It wasn't because I'm patriotic, guys. I hate to break it to y'all. I was just really good at it.
Yeah.
All right. Like, it just is what it is. Right. But it was the means for me to, give a good career at something that, was a worthy cause that I was able to support and provide for my family. Right. I did all my back-to-back deployments and everything like that because I was supporting my family.
Yeah.
And in setting those things up. But then if I'm the one that's not supporting my family and I'm the one causing the angst in my family because I can't regulate and control, different things that are going on with me, I'm the problem. So I'm that common denominator. And removing myself from that is a logical explanation to support my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah, I
right.
see.
So and learning and understanding that, and that's why I bring up the training aspect, right? Because we get into a lot of this in our training that provides a very different context than somebody without training going into these problem sets, right? And it's going to give you a different level of understanding of not only how to de-escalate, but then two, where these people are coming from and why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. So for me, right, even walking in, if that person does have a weapon, I'm like, yo, dude, like, calm down. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool. Like, I want you to set that down. I'm not going to take it from you. Right. But we need to have a conversation before you continue down this path.
Yeah.
So, and before any of our peer to peer, support responders do show up to that scene, they are on the phone with that licensed therapist all the way until they do that one on one handoff. And then we're tracking that location of where they're at. So that also goes into, we do use geo tracking to pinpoint where that person is for a couple reasons, right? One, so I can get my responder there,
Yeah.
right? Like that kind of common sense factor. But two, if the call gets disconnected and they're in the middle of de-escalation with that therapist, they can send a responder there. Or if there's like, you know what, nope, I'm done, and I hang up the phone, I can then send, a responder or, emergency response to that location to attempt to be safe.
Because tech always fails at the most critical moment.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things. So, and this was a big pushing point for the founder and the president. His name's Ram. His younger brother committed suicide in 2011. They didn't find him for 7 days.
Oh, really? Wow.
And, that's also, a key thing too, is, if somebody is talking, they're going through these problems, we can at least pinpoint where they're at to where we can get people to them, hopefully in time to prevent. But, unfortunately, in some cases, it's to find them.
Wow.
And, it's not a bright and cheery topic, but unfortunately, that is the truth. And there are a couple of reasons for behind everything that we are doing.
Well, we need more of the truth out there. That's for sure. We need to have these conversations. Yeah. So,
and they're uncomfortable for a lot of people, but you know what? It's where it's at and what we need to do. So anyway, because we are getting close on time, I'm going to speed myself up because I am a chatty Cathy, y'all. I apologize. I talk too much sometimes.
Oh, you're doing good.
Either way, right? Like, we're going to de-escalate over the phone. You're going to the timer, or you're getting a responder to show up in person. We covered our training for our responders. They're going to physically show up, and around 25% of those calls are taken care of with that responder, to where they're able to de-escalate and get on a safety plan. And then around 7% and 9% result in hospitalization at 7 and 9% being, emergency response involvement where they had to get an emergency responder in. Okay. So, but out of that entire demographic to date, we're at 84% stability with our program.
Very nice.
Right. So And that is completely attributed to those partnerships that we kind of talked about and those wraparound services that we then can tie them to. Hey, we've de-escalated the immediate crisis. This is what we're doing, and here's who we can connect you to.
Very nice. Yeah.
Which kind of leads us into how are we scaling this nationally, as well as what are our other programs that we're involving too. We originally said we're not going to vary from just crisis intervention. But we found components that were really lacking in the community that we've decided to build our own programs for. And one is obviously veteran housing.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the programs we're building are specific to target major problem sets, right? Like if there's, key contributing factors that are leading to more people in crisis, right? That leads to more suicides. How do we target those factors and fix them
Mhm.
and get in front of it? So we did one as veteran housing, right? We are partnering with a pretty large developer, and he has offered one of his buildings to us. Um, excuse me, it is down in Homestead, Florida, to where we can actually house you and your family, right? It's an apartment complex, but it's beautiful. Did I mention Homestead, Florida? Uh,
Yeah.
so no,
There's
it's
worse places you could be.
100%, right? Like it's absolutely beautiful. We're working a couple work programs into that. We're working cognitive behavioral therapy programs into that, um, as well as vocational training and, setting up job fairs coming out of it to help actually stabilize people for long term over short, intermittent, we put a band-aid over a problem.
Mm.
So how do we get people from crisis to being successful is this is a program we're offering and running. Obviously, we do have a step down model, and it does come with a contract, y'all. Right? We don't just offer free housing. You've got to sit down and you've got to put the work in this as well too. We're not trying to just hand out something for free because then people don't value it. So
100%.
we've
Yes.
built it in. Yeah, we've built in a step down model to hey, we're going to cover your 100% for the first 90 days. Right? We're going to figure out how to get you and the family moved down there. We're going to set this all into motion. We're going to get you guys established. You got 90 days to get yourself settled, figure it out, and we've got to start, utilizing our resources to get you into the job market,
That's super cool, man.
right? And get you established. Yeah. And then it drops down 20 to 40%. You're responsible for 20 to 40% of the rent. And we track those milestones for all of our tenants all the way down until, 12 to 24 months, depending on the situation, that they're fully established and stabilized.
Very cool.
So that's one of our programs. And we're just rolling that one out right now. It's moving, and we should be getting some people in here in the next couple of weeks, which is really, really exciting. And getting that full proof of concept. And then hopefully eventually we'll be able to put one of those up in each region of the United States.
And how many states do you have your program running in right now?
Yes. So we're currently running in 11 states right now. And sorry, I skipped that whole part. I got excited about the housing program. It's my new jam. No, so we're currently operating in 11 states across the United States, with the goal of getting all of them done by May. We're probably not going to make it, y'all. Right? It's just the truth. Our app is 100% viable. May 26th, it'll be viable in every state. However, we're not going to be able to offer a service there if I don't have enough responders.
Okay.
Okay. So if we're not in that state, it's because we haven't been able to recruit enough responders to physically show up. And I'm not going to say, hey guys, this is a resource if I don't have anybody to actually show up for you. So one of the biggest hurdles we're facing is recruiting, right? We need people who are willing to take a little time out of their day. All right. Again, 60% of our calls are handled over the phone. 24% are handled by our responders showing up. So yeah, if we get 100 calls that month, then 24 of them are going out that we need somebody to show up. What we did and what we kind of built out of our pilot program is that we kind of figured out a 100-mile radius. So if a responder is activated by that therapist, it will send a text message, phone call, and email out within a 100-mile radius of that person that's in crisis based on your phone geolocation, right?
Wow.
So if you're within 100 miles of them, you'll get notified, very similar to an Amber Alert, right? Of, hey, there's somebody in crisis. You can then say, hey, yep, I will respond to it. It's 24 miles away from me. I can get to that person and go, talk and work with them, right? If you're in the middle of something, right, like you're home alone with the kids, you can't respond. You don't respond to it at all. But the rest of the people in that 100-mile radius, somebody will pick up. If we don't have anybody to pick up, we have our state leads and our region leads that will cover down on it. And then we can expand that bubble to get somebody there, or that therapist will recommend that we send, an emergency response to their location.
That's some brilliant stuff. Like, it really,
Yeah.
the way you're able to leverage the technology and the type of programs that you're putting out there. There's no way you're going to stick in one lane. There's too much stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to expand.
Yeah. And we do, right? But we're keeping it as niched as we possibly can right now. Just because we don't want to oversaturate and have it lose value.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're trying really, really hard to keep it really focused on our main niche of the veterans, active duty service members, first responders, and then their families are included as well.
We're just coming up to the end of the time here, so make sure I get you out here for your next meeting. Where we'll have to chat again, especially once you roll some stuff out and you start going national. And I'd love to get you back in to talk about an update. So just as we come up to the end of the time here, because that flew by, let people know where can they find your work, where, social media, websites, what have you got?
Yeah, of course. So our main org is www.qrfup.org. We also do have a merchandise shop, right? So if you're looking for information, donations, anything like that, go to our main org site. If you're looking to purchase merchandise, we have hats, we have shirts, we have all sorts of stuff. Every $100 that we spend on our merchandise store will give us around 1 hour of crisis intervention by a licensed therapist. We are paying our therapists, right? They're doctors.
Yeah.
They're expensive, y'all. We need help. Please go in and buy merch or just donate. A $50 donation gets you the same thing as $100. But our merch site is www.qrfup.shop. And you can find all the information and everything you're looking for on both of those sites. If you want to follow us on social media, our Instagram is at qrfup.organization, as well as our Facebook. I think we're just at QRFup. You can look us up. You might have to do QRFup Crisis Intervention just because it's Facebook and it's flooded with a bunch of stuff. We do have a YouTube thing that we're starting to put out, and we're collaborating with a bunch of other stuff. So you'll start seeing some of the YouTube videos coming out. Just Google QRFup Organization, and you'll start seeing a lot of the different stuff coming out of that.
Awesome. Well, if I can be of any help, let me know. Reach out. I'll put you in contact with some people, and I don't know, maybe we'll see you up in Canada one day. So
maybe in the summer.
Yeah. You have to do everything remotely. No, I appreciate you being on here. It's great to see some of the resources getting out there, especially down in the US, and you have like a bit more of a coordinated response that is greatly lacking. And, you guys are kind of at the forefront of creating something. So that's amazing. Amazing work.
Yeah. So. No, we're absolutely challenging everything and every stigma that's been known about mental health here in the US. So, and we're doing it in a way that provides people the autonomy and provides people the resources they really truly need. So, because nobody's coming to help our community but us.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to everybody.
Yeah.
Just the truth.
Well, I want to say thanks for being on the show today, and we'll chat for just 2 seconds offline.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening in and following along with the discussions. Be sure to click the follow or subscribe button on your respective listening platform. Also, check out the Quiet Professional on X and Instagram under TQP780. And most importantly, please share where you can. Everyone has a part to play in getting these education and information pieces out there, so pass it along. Thanks again.